Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan and Bo Nickel, who is now my favorite UFC fighter because he has proven himself to be not woke, but awake. All right. And I have 3 clips for you from the podcast. Very, very interesting guy. They touch on Terence McKenna and how he called out the world as it is today. They talk about advancements in society, the elite trying to control people, and the WEF, as well as a clip that I'm going to be showing to you, and it'll make more sense after. I'm going to show you an interesting clip. And then they talk about the truth getting through despite what's happening in the media today, mainstream media, and people waking up and having such vast amounts of information available to them. So let's get into this whole thing. Don't forget about IamCoachColin.com. We got Soul Not For Sale here. We got Public Enemy #1, and we got The Great Resist. Discount code is IamCoachColin, all capital letters, all one word, 1 L in the name, Colin. Let's get to the first clip.
You know, there's a really interesting clip. See if you can go to that clip on my Twitter page. I retweeted it. There's a guy named Terence McKenna who's this like psychedelic bard / philosopher who said a lot of very interesting shit. He
Contradiction
died.
Is going.
Just listen to what he said, because I think this was 1998 that he said this, and literally he called what's happening.
The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. So I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet at its conclusion.
That guy called it.
So smart.
In 98.
He said so many things too, talking about AI, talking about extraterrestrials, talking about, people trying to basically beat, human mortality. It's like, wow.
It's all happening right now.
It is, yeah. 25 years before he was on point. What a smart guy. I'm going to look into him more.
Oh, he had a lot of wild theories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff I love. Well, one thing that I love about your podcast is I love listening, hearing, learning about all of those types of things, man. It's like I listen to so many of your episodes for that specific reason, because that stuff is it's so important and interesting, and it'd be easy to not think about it and just go about your daily life. But I don't know. I feel like I have to think about it. I
think we all have to think about it. Life is more strange now than it's ever been in the entire history of human beings.
100%. Terence McKenna, I got to do more videos on Terence McKenna because his lectures, it's like, thank God that they're available to all of us. And if you haven't looked up Terence McKenna, please do. You'll know him by the picture, the video you just saw of him. He has so many interesting insights, the way he breaks things down, the way he talks about things. And I love that Joe is introducing this young man, 27 years old, to Terence McKenna, because more people have to, like, even if you don't go deep, just listen to a Terence McKenna video just once a month, and it will just open your eyes to so many things. He was so ahead of his time, and I would have loved to see an episode with Joe Rogan and Terence McKenna. He's had Dennis McKenna on, yes, and it was great, you know, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. If I would have saw Joe Rogan and Terence McKenna sit down for an episode, that would have broke the internet, in my opinion. If Terence McKenna didn't pass away when he did, I think he would have been one of those guys. I think right now he would have a podcast, or he'd still be doing lectures that would be even more massive than they were. He used to speak in front of hundreds of people. In the comments, because I know I have some older people who listen to the podcast, if you were ever somebody who got to be at a Terence McKenna, I'm just going to the next clip here. If you were ever one of those people that got to be in the crowd or anything, please hit up the comment section. I would love to hear about that. All right, let's go to this next clip. They're talking about the WEF, advancements in society, and Joe Rogan has some choice words for people like Klaus Schwab and others. Let's get into it.
No. Well, I think that, so I've read this before, and I think there was a study that backed it, but humans, we can't understand things that naturally we can maybe be taught, but our natural understanding of like something like compound interest, like we don't get that. That's why a lot of people think, all right, I'm not going to invest and put $5,000 or $7,000 into a Roth IRA. Like, what's that going to do for me? But in reality, like in 30 years, it's going to be $5 million or something like that. But so we don't have a natural inclination to think that way, and so I feel like with what you just said, where how many like 100 years ago. Like imagine you showed somebody an iPhone. It's like, right. and what's it, and even not even 100 years ago. Imagine 20 years ago you showed somebody an iPhone. It's like that's such a short amount of time.
Yeah,
that's insane. Incredible. Because if you look at, let's say like 0 to 1500, not that crazy of a difference.
Right.
Or even like 0 to 1800, like until the Industrial Revolution, really.
Right.
Okay, we're still getting around on boats and wagons and things like that. All right, but that wouldn't really blow your mind too much. Like, oh, they got a nicer boat or crazier wagon. It's like, okay, now I see a train. Okay, now I see an automobile. Now I see like plane. Okay, now we got an iPhone. It's like, whoa, like now I can FaceTime somebody in New Zealand. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, what's it going to be in? Like you said, I think it's days go slow, like years go fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in 5 years, it's like, the technology is already so different. It's going to be the wildest friggin'. It's going to be like the Wild
And
West.
there's this battle where these enormous companies are trying to control the population.
Yeah.
Because when people protest about things and people aren't on board with things, it fucks up their ability to make money. So they're trying to get as much control over what people say and do as possible. And the governments are stepping in and trying to get as much say and control over these internet companies as possible. And you see this integration of the FBI and Twitter with the Twitter files. It's like, boy, there's a battle going on.
Stuff scares me, man.
It should.
Part of it, like, my initial reaction is, I got to do whatever I can do to like help and make this positive and not let like evil people take over.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of me is like, dude, you're like 27-year-old MMA fighter. Like, let's
Settle down.
Yeah, chill out.
Concentrate on kicking ass.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a balance, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all have our day-to-day life, family and things
Mm-hmm.
going on, and got to get an oil change on your car and things like that. And then it's like, all right, well, there's also like pretty significant evidence that we have some extraterrestrials flying around like Earth, or that there's pretty much explicit evidence that certain people and organizations are trying to mass manipulate the entire population and make it, what I forget what they call it, but basically like whatever the thing where they're like making all the world like I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? The what's the organization?
One World Order, World Economic Forum.
World Economic Forum, and they're talking about I don't remember what their whole plan was, but basically like
it's global control.
Yeah, the control, right?
Yeah, it's spooky. And when it comes from a guy like Klaus Schwab, who dresses like a villain from Star Wars and talks like a Nazi,
how many more people not pay attention to that?
He seems like so on the nose. Like, is that a real person?
The compliance.
Imagine the compliance. That was actually Borla from Pfizer.
Oh, it wasn't the same guy?
No, Borla from Pfizer was talking about a pill that you would take. Like, say if you took a pill, some sort of pharmaceutical pill, and the pill has a signal that it sends to people that it shows that you took it. And then he's like, imagine the compliance.
Yeah,
like, hey, man, fuck you.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm good. No.
You're lucky you're still alive, buddy, with that kind of talk.
Yeah, seriously. No, that's
You're
insane.
a real threat to freedom with that kind of talk. Like, obviously.
Bro, you're lucky you're alive with that type of talk. That is a bold thing to say. Now, Just in case you don't know about what he's talking about, I just want to show you that clip because that's a real thing. The gentleman really said it. Let's play that clip really quick. Quick clip, like 20 seconds. Then we're going to move on to the next Rogan clip.
It is basically biological chip that it is in the tablet. And once you take the tablet and dissolves into your stomach, sends a signal that you took the tablet. So imagine the applications of that, compliance. The insurance companies to know that the medicines that patients should take, they do take them. It is fascinating what happens in this field.
So that was him saying that. That's who Joe Rogan's talking about there. It's very, very interesting. Actually, this gentleman, just bring him up on the screen again. This gentleman was actually on Lex Fridman's podcast, interestingly enough. And Lex Fridman actually brought up Joe Rogan. And he was just talking about marketing and, the pharmaceutical industry and, the advertising control that they could potentially have. And he actually addressed it. He kind of gave it the runaround, but I just found it so bold that Lex was not only willing to bring up Joe Rogan, but to question their power over narratives. I just thought that was really, really interesting that Lex was willing to do that. I don't watch Lex Fridman's podcast crazy all the time, but he has some very interesting topics that he's willing to tackle that you would think someone like him would not be willing to tackle. I gotta be honest. We got one more clip where they're just talking about truth and it getting out to the people in a way that's never really been seen before, which I have to agree with. Let's get to it right here. Perfect. Is that it? I think that's it. Let's get into this clip. You guys can't even see what I have to do here, man. I gotta put little pieces of paper on the timeline so I can remember where the clip is, and then I gotta bring it into it real quick. The things I do, you have no idea. All right, let's get into this last clip.
Now we know.
And pay very close attention to people that are fighting against the truth.
Yeah.
And fighting against that information. Because what's interesting about now, and one of the things that McKenna talked about is with the internet, is that I don't think anybody ever anticipated things like podcasts, like the Huberman Show or Peter Attia's show or Lex Fridman's show, where you're getting unbiased information, scientific information that is not connected to any official government agency or news source where they're vetting all that and telling you what you can and can't say. And when you do say something that goes against their narrative, they fucking come for you hard.
It's wild.
But what they don't understand is people don't believe them. So it just look at what's happened to CNN.
Right.
CNN's falling apart.
Nobody
believes them.
Nobody believes them.
Oh, you're propaganda. You guys are full of shit. You don't give a fuck about the truth.
And people started to realize too, it's like, okay, if somebody can make money off something, if they're getting paid for this and that, you can't trust that information.
Right.
They're, okay, this is their livelihood on the line. All right, take everything they say with a grain of salt. It's like, you got to get information from people who have no financial interest in it. Otherwise, it's like, you don't know.
You have no idea.
Yeah, no idea.
But it is a great time, though, to get information because you're getting, like I talked about Huberman, who's so fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
You're getting unbiased source information from a legitimate scientist from Stanford who's telling you this works and this is why it works and these specific nutrients are responsible for these specific things that happen in your body. Mm-hmm. This was never available before. And now it's available for millions and millions of people. I mean, the Huberman's podcast is gigantic and people are listening to it every day. They're changing their life. They're doing cold plunges and saunas and they're eating well and they are eating healthy foods. They are avoiding seed oils and people are seeing these immense physical benefits from it and health benefits from it.
Yeah, it's super exciting, as somebody who I feel like as an athlete, I kind of had to be a little ahead of the curve on that just because I wanted to take care of myself. And so, the cold plunge, the sauna, the nutrition, what's good for you, what's bad for you, understanding certain things. It was like, now I see like my mom and dad are doing cold plunge every morning now.
Man, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. Again, his name's Bo Nickel. He's 27 years old, UFC fighter. He's doing pretty well out there. And you can't discount these episodes when you see the MMA show. I know most people have to, I do the exact same thing. I see MMA show and I go, whatever. I know what this is going to be about because I know it's the MMA show. I know it's a fighter. But this one's a little different. I tried to find the little clips where they're talking more about people, more as people, more about culture. I found this episode very interesting. I like this Bo Nickel guy a lot. And honestly, towards the last clip, what they're saying, it's alarming almost how much information is available, how much scientific information is available. And not just towards like the deep science, just towards what they're talking about, cold plunges, how cold immersion helps, how saunas help. Like, you know, if you listen to Rogan, you've heard about him talk about it for so long, but there's just so much information. If you don't know about Andrew Huberman, go and watch his type in anything you're curious about and type in Andrew Huberman and type in that thing. He probably has a 2-hour conversation about it with an expert or by himself. And he's not one of these guys like, you know, I hate when people throw around the term grifter. You have no idea what a grifter is. A grifter is someone that robs an entire town of like their money. Like, you have no idea. So I'm not going to use that term. But he's not one of these guys. He's not a shill. He's not selling anything. He's not making any money from this. And when he talks about studies being done, he literally has his own lab where he does his own studies with a team of scientists. So a lot of studies he will find. When you're a scientist, you have access to a lot of studies that we do not have access to. Don't know why. I think that kind of thing should be kind of open source for everybody to see. But he has access to these studies. He names them off. If you can find even little pieces of them on the internet, you can, or you can just listen to him. He's changed things for me tremendously. Sunlight, cold exposure, everything. But, you know, like Rogan said, CNN's falling apart. You know what they viewership that they get in a month, I get like half of that. You know, Tucker Carlson is like way above. Joe Rogan dwarfs it. It's like, it's wild what's happening right now. And as we see that taking place, we see a scramble kind of by the mainstream media to kind of, kind of throw a wrench in everything, you know, kind of throw shade at a lot of people who do what Rogan does and what Tucker does and all these different people. But the people are seeing through it because they have the ability to just watch. Like, let me just watch what this guy has to say for a few hours. Let me just watch a couple of this guy's videos. Whereas before we didn't have that option. We had to listen to them. And we don't have to listen to them anymore. It's a very interesting time. But again, Bo Nickel, do not discount the MMA show. Again, I went through and I found the most important clips to me. You got to go and watch the episode yourself to find the most important things to you. But I think I hit the mark there. And let's not forget what he said about Klaus Schwab. I found that very, very important. Keep fighting for truth and all of that good stuff. Like, subscribe. It helps the channel tremendously. You have no idea. And share. Please share. It helps so much. And other than that, I'm out.